The billing alert appeared at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, flagging an unauthorized access to my structured deposition templates. I am Cornelius Inglewood, 42 years old, securities partner at one of Columbus's most prestigious law firms. 20 years of practice had taught me to trust my instincts about irregularities. This one felt different. The case management system showed someone had downloaded my entire deposition framework library at 3:23 a.m. the previous Sunday. My keycard hadn't been used that weekend. I was in Cleveland visiting my sister. I pulled the access logs. The entry showed my credentials, my office terminal, my standard login pattern. Everything appeared normal except for one detail. The session lasted exactly 47 minutes. I never worked in precise time blocks like that. My structured deposition system represented 15 years of refinement. Each template contained specific questioning sequences I'd developed for securities fraud cases. The methodology had helped secure 12 major settlements in the past 3 years alone. Partners from other firms regularly requested copies, but I'd always declined. The download included my most sensitive materials: cross-examination strategies for hostile witnesses, document authentication protocols, timeline reconstruction methods that had proven devastating in court. Someone had systematically copied everything. I checked the firm's continuing legal education schedule. Nothing listed for the past month. No internal training sessions. No partner presentations scheduled. The security consultant's office sat 3 doors down from mine. Tobias Redwood had joined the firm 8 months ago, handling background checks and clearance verification for our government contract work. His access level included case management systems for compliance auditing purposes. I walked past his office twice that morning. His computer remained logged in, multiple browser tabs open. One displayed the State Bar's CLE registration portal. Another showed a presentation template titled Advanced Deposition Strategies in Complex Litigation. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Excellent presentation yesterday. Your deposition framework was brilliant. Looking to implementing these techniques. I had given no presentation yesterday. I had been in depositions all day for the Morrison Securities case. The pieces aligned with uncomfortable precision. Someone was using my work to teach other attorneys. Someone with access to my files, my methods, my years of development. Someone who understood the value of what they had taken. I needed to know how deep this went. The investigation began with my billing records. I pulled 3 months of time entries, cross-referencing each session against my calendar. The pattern emerged within an hour. 17 instances where my deposition templates had been accessed outside my logged work sessions. Each unauthorized access occurred during lunch breaks or evening hours when I was in court or client meetings. The timestamp showed methodical downloading, always in small batches to avoid detection. Someone had been harvesting my work systematically since January. I traced the digital footprints through our case management system. The access logs revealed a disturbing truth. Every download originated from Tobias Redwood's terminal. His security clearance consultant credentials provided legitimate access to case files for compliance reviews. He had weaponized that trust. The State Bar's CLE database confirmed my worst suspicions. Tobias had registered to teach a continuing education seminar titled Mastering Complex Depositions: Advanced Strategies for Securities Litigation. The course description contained verbatim excerpts from my proprietary methodology documents. Registration records showed 43 attorneys had signed up. The seminar fee was $800 per participant. Tobias was monetizing 15 years of my professional development work. I documented everything. Screenshots of access logs, copies of the CLE registration, email confirmations showing his teaching schedule. They painted a clear picture of systematic intellectual property theft. My partnership track record had always been solid. They nominated me for the Rising Star Award 3 consecutive years. My client retention rate exceeded 90%. The Morrison case alone would generate over $2 million in fees for the firm, but this betrayal threatened everything I had built. The next morning, I confronted the scope of his operation. Tobias had created an entire consulting business around my stolen materials. His website advertised proven litigation strategies and battle-tested deposition frameworks. Client testimonials praised techniques I had spent years perfecting. His LinkedIn profile listed him as a litigation strategy consultant with expertise in securities fraud cases. The irony was suffocating. He was using my credentials to establish his credibility while stealing my intellectual property. I found invoices in his office trash. 3 law firms had paid him consulting fees totaling $24,000 over the past 6 months. Each invoice referenced proprietary deposition methodologies and advanced questioning protocols, my exact terminology. The teaching schedule revealed the full extent of his betrayal. Monthly CLE seminars across Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. Private consulting sessions with mid-sized firms. Weekend workshops for solo practitioners. He had built an entire secondary income stream from my stolen work. But the most damaging discovery came from his email drafts folder. A message to a legal publishing company proposing a book deal, Revolutionary Deposition Techniques, a practitioner's guide to securities litigation success. The manuscript outline contained titles lifted directly from my training materials. I calculated the financial impact. Lost consulting opportunities, diminished competitive advantage, potential client defections if my methods became widely known. The damage exceeded 6 figures easily, possibly more when considering long-term implications. The narashimioff was overwhelming. Tobias Redwood had systematically stolen my intellectual property, monetized it through unauthorized teaching and consulting, and planned to publish it for broader distribution. His security clearance position had provided the perfect cover for this elaborate theft. I gathered every piece of documentation into a comprehensive file. Access logs, financial records, teaching materials, email communications. The case against him was airtight. Now I needed to decide how to proceed. Confrontation would alert him to my discovery. Reporting to firm management risked internal politics and potential cover-up attempts. The state bar complaint process could take months while he continued profiting from my stolen work. But I had one advantage he didn't know about. I had been recording every access to my files since February, when I first noticed the unusual download patterns. The digital trail was complete and irrefutable. The question wasn't whether I could prove his guilt. The question was how much damage he had already done to my professional reputation and competitive position, and whether I could stop him before he destroyed everything I had worked to build. Monday morning arrived with the weight of decision. I had spent the weekend reviewing every piece of, cross-referencing timestamps, and building an unassailable case. The documentation filled 3 bankers' boxes and an encrypted drive containing over 200 files. My first call went to the Office of Economic Fraud Investigation. Judicial Financial Audit Specialist Paul Rivera answered on the second ring. His voice carried the measured tone of someone accustomed to complex financial crimes. Mr. Inglewood, I've reviewed your preliminary submission. This appears to involve both intellectual property theft and fraudulent business practices. We'll need to coordinate with the State Bar's disciplinary board. Rivera scheduled an emergency meeting for Tuesday afternoon. I spent Monday preparing a comprehensive presentation, organizing chronologically, and calculating precise damages. The financial impact had grown beyond my initial estimates. Tobias had been teaching my methods for nearly 18 months. Tuesday's meeting took place in a sterile conference room downtown. Rivera brought 2 investigators and a digital forensics specialist. I presented my findings methodically, walking through each piece without emotion or speculation. The access logs show systematic downloading of proprietary materials, I explained, pointing to the timeline display. Cross-referenced with his teaching schedule, the pattern becomes clear. He accessed my files immediately before each seminar. The forensics specialist examined my recorded data. This is exceptionally thorough documentation. The metadata confirms unauthorized access and file transfers. We can trace the exact materials used in his presentations. Rivera nodded grimly. We'll need to interview Mr. Redwood and examine his financial records. This investigation will likely expand to include his consulting clients and the legal education providers who hired him. While the official investigation proceeded, I faced internal firm politics. Managing partner Ophelia Blackwood called me into her office Wednesday morning. The conversation was tense and carefully worded. Cornelius, we're aware of the situation with Tobias. The firm's reputation is paramount. We need to handle this delicately to avoid negative publicity. I had anticipated this response. The congregate is overwhelming. Attempting to minimize or cover up his actions would expose the firm to additional liability. Our clients deserve to know their confidential strategies may have been compromised. Blackwood's expression hardened. You're suggesting we voluntarily disclose potential malpractice issues? That's career suicide for everyone involved. I'm suggesting we get ahead of this before it becomes public through the bar investigation. Proactive disclosure demonstrates integrity and protects our long-term interests. The meeting ended without resolution, but I knew the firm's position. They would sacrifice me to protect Tobias if necessary. His security clearance work generated significant revenue, while my securities practice, though successful, was more replaceable in their calculation. Thursday brought the first break in the case. Rivera called with an update that changed everything. We've discovered additional victims. Tobias Redwood has been stealing materials from at least 4 other attorneys across 3 firms. The scope of this operation is much larger than initially suspected. This revelation shifted the dynamics completely. Multiple victims meant multiple complaints, multiple investigations, and inevitable media attention. The firm could no longer contain or minimize the situation. Friday's emergency partners meeting was predictably chaotic. I presented the expanded to 12 senior partners, including documentation of Tobias's theft from other firms. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. How long has this been happening? Asked securities partner Tobias Greenfield. Based on the digital, approximately 2 years. He's generated over $300,000 in unauthorized income from stolen intellectual property. The partners exchanged worried glances. Liability exposure, client notifications, bar sanctions, and potential criminal charges dominated the discussion. Tobias Redwood's employment was terminated immediately, his access revoked, and his office sealed pending investigation. The confrontation came Monday morning. Tobias arrived to find security guards and investigators waiting. I watched from my office as they escorted him to the conference room. His confident demeanor cracked when Rivera presented the doc. Through the glass walls I could see his shoulders slump as the full scope of his exposure became apparent. Multiple felony charges, bar discipline proceedings, civil lawsuits from victims, and complete professional destruction. His security clearance would be revoked, ending his consulting practice permanently. The investigation moved swiftly after his termination. Rivera's team traced the stolen materials through Tobias's teaching network, identifying dozens of attorneys who had unknowingly learned compromised strategies. The legal education providers faced their own liability issues for failing to verify content ownership. Client notifications began the following week. I personally called each affected client, explaining the situation and offering remedial measures. Most appreciated the transparency, though 3 initiated malpractice claims against the firm. The insurance company settled quickly to avoid prolonged litigation. The state bar moved with unusual speed, filing formal charges within 30 days. Tobias's attorney attempted to negotiate a resignation in lieu of discipline, but the we was too damaging. The bar demanded full accountability given the scope and duration of his misconduct. His hearing lasted 3 days. I testified on the second day, presenting the technical and explaining the impact on my practice. Tobias sat motionless, as witness after witness detailed his systematic theft and deception. The bar's decision was swift and final, permanent. Disbarment, restitution to all victims, and referral for criminal prosecution. The prosecutor filed charges the same week, multiple counts of theft, fraud, and computer crimes. Justice moved through the system with methodical precision. Tobias pleaded guilty to avoid trial, receiving 18 months in prison and 5 years probation. The restitution order exceeded $400,000, though collection remained uncertain given his destroyed earning capacity. My role in the investigation earned recognition from the bar's ethics committee. They asked me to speak at continuing education seminars about digital security and intellectual property protection. The irony wasn't lost on me. Teaching other attorneys how to prevent the exact crime committed against me, the firm's response proved more complex. While publicly supportive, internal dynamics shifted noticeably. Some partners viewed me as a whistleblower who had damaged firm relationships. Others recognized the necessity of my actions and the protection they provided. 6 months after Tobias's arrest, I received an unexpected call from Ophelia Greenwood at a competing firm. She had followed the case closely and was impressed by my handling of the situation. Her offer was compelling: partnership track, securities practice leadership, and complete autonomy over my methods and materials. The decision required careful consideration. Staying meant navigating ongoing political tensions and rebuilding trust with conflicted partners. Leaving offered a fresh start but meant abandoning relationships built over years of successful practice. I chose to leave. The new firm provided better protection for intellectual property, stronger ethical leadership, and genuine appreciation for my expertise. My first project involved developing comprehensive security protocols to prevent future theft. The transition proved smoother than expected. Several clients followed me to the new firm, citing confidence in my integrity and professional judgment. The securities practice grew rapidly as word spread about my role in exposing the fraud. Tobias began serving his sentence in minimum security prison. His appeals were denied, his law license permanently revoked, and his consulting business dissolved. The legal education providers implemented new verification procedures to prevent similar incidents. The case became a cautionary tale in legal circles, frequently cited in ethics seminars and bar publications. My willingness to pursue justice despite personal and professional costs resonated with attorneys facing similar dilemmas, but the victory felt hollow at times. Years of work had been stolen, relationships damaged, and trust shattered. The financial compensation couldn't restore the competitive advantage lost or repair the professional relationships strained by the investigation. Still, the outcome demonstrated that accountability was possible, even within insular professional communities. The system worked when it was overwhelming, and victims refused to remain silent. 18 months later, I stood in my new corner office overlooking the Scioto River, reviewing quarterly reports that exceeded all projections. The securities practice had grown from 3 attorneys to 12, with client assets under management approaching $2 billion. The morning brought familiar routines, case strategy meetings, client calls, and document reviews, but the atmosphere felt fundamentally different. Trust permeated every interaction. Partners shared information freely, associates asked questions without fear, and clients expressed genuine confidence in our recommendations. My assistant knocked and entered with the day's correspondence. Among the usual items was a letter from the Ohio State Bar Association requesting my participation in their annual ethics symposium. The topic: protecting intellectual property in the digital age. I accepted immediately. The presentation would focus on detection methods, prevention strategies, and the importance of swift action when theft occurs. Real-world examples resonated more powerfully than theoretical discussions. The new firm had embraced my security protocols enthusiastically. Every document carried digital watermarks, access logs tracked all user activity, and automated alerts flagged unusual patterns. These measures prevented theft while maintaining necessary collaboration. My reputation had evolved from securities expert to ethics advocate. Law schools invited me to speak about professional responsibility. Bar associations sought my input on disciplinary procedures, and legal publications featured my articles on intellectual property protection. The financial recovery exceeded expectations. Insurance covered most losses, client retention remained strong, and new business flourished as word spread about my integrity under pressure. The stolen materials had been recovered and destroyed, eliminating ongoing competitive concerns. Tobias completed his sentence but remained permanently barred from legal practice. His consulting business never recovered, and his reputation in legal education circles was irreparably damaged. Justice had been served, though the personal cost remained significant. I developed curriculum on digital ethics for remote firms, addressing vulnerabilities that traditional security measures often missed. The program gained national recognition and became mandatory training for several state bar associations. The betrayal had taught valuable lessons about trust, verification, and the importance of protecting professional assets. These insights shaped every business decision, from hiring practices to technology investments to client relationships. My new partners appreciated the experience I brought to risk management discussions. They understood that my caution stemmed from hard-won wisdom rather than paranoia, and they implemented my recommendations without resistance. The evening ritual of reviewing the day's work felt peaceful now. No suspicious patterns in the access logs, no unexplained charges on billing statements, no mysterious gaps in document histories. The systems worked as designed, protecting everyone's interests. Looking back, the investigation had been necessary despite its personal and professional costs. Allowing the theft to continue would have damaged more careers, harmed more clients, and undermined the legal profession's integrity. The sunset painted the river in shades of gold and crimson, reflecting off the windows of downtown Columbus. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but they would be honest challenges. Market competition, regulatory changes, client demands. Not betrayal from trusted colleagues. The phone remained silent, the computer showed no alerts, and the case files contained exactly what they should contain. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.